what's going on today, black males and black females being in conflict with each other, mainly because of the system, right? The underlying reason for why those black females had to be there doing what they did was because of the system of racism, white supremacy, the slave trade that the white people established, the white people who practice racism, which I think is definitely overlooked and not echoed enough in the film. That the reason that they are doing what they have to do is because racist man, racist woman set it up this way, and unfortunately they need to protect themselves. That is something that could have been emphasized a lot more throughout the film. I think it was emphasized a little bit, but not clearly.
Miss Action?
Yes, I'm gonna agree with you there. There were little snippets here and there of we're doing this for the Europeans, the white people, the racists, but the notice who is not there for the reason for the conflict, who produced this film. They are, and you are correct, because one of the women who were rescued by the homie, she's crying over her dead mother. Her brother and her father had been taken away; they'd already been sold. So either the males who were uh, of those villages that were captured, they were either killed or they were taken. Why? Because racist man, racist woman need more bodies to produce whatever it is they need to produce to keep their system going.
Please go ahead, Ms. Salt.
Yeah, I should read straight from my notes. Even though I started off good, I said I think the beginning was good. I think they did an excellent job lying to me. That's the first thing I wrote. um, yeah, they are white racist man and racist woman. They are promoting, conflict between us. Yeah, they're promoting conflict between us with the constant, showing these images of, when non-white females going after non-white males for whatever reason. When we have to always keep in mind that racist man and racist woman is behind this always. Please remember that. And I mean for now.
Indeed, it also kind of adds to the maybe narrative that black males are useless. But as you can see illustrated in the film, the black males were the first ones to go, the first ones to be preyed upon, which probably is the reason why you need a female army. Not saying black females aren't capable, but I think for obvious reasons, it's important to preserve females. That's just my opinion. Don't want to get too much off topic. So then it kind of go from that scene, the opening scene. You kind of go into the kingdom, and that's where you're introduced to who really is the main character in the film. I think Niwa, ultimately Viola Davis's daughter. And I think this once again we're seeing this film for me honestly was and I was speaking to other tend to counter racists about this, but this film for me is just a huge like how can I say this without being inappropriate? Just black males are of no constructive use to us in society, to us as black females. That's largely how I got it, because one of those instances is where you go back to the village, and first we have the black males who are these slave raiders. Then we go back to the village, and her dad's trying to sell her to a male. I mean, the male, she's being sold for marriage, which can almost seem like it could be equated to some type of slavery in the film, at least portrayed that way. And the male assaults her. He slaps her across the face, and I think this is the first time that they met each other. And he just strikes her across the face because she didn't respond to something he said. And one thing I thought was interesting was the mom. They panned to the mom, and the mom was just sitting there quietly. I guess in some ways to demonstrate that she's powerless or something. The dad obviously didn't do anything, and then she pushes the guy down, and the dad takes her to basically to join the army after that. I just thought what I wrote down was black males appear to be worthless, insecure conspirators in the opening scenes. Yeah. I'll go ahead and Salt.
It was mentioned a little bit earlier about the young girl who mother passed away, and she was crying over the attempted mother's dead body, and the warriors was like, "Oh, we'll just, she can come back with us, or we could send her back to her village." And that's when she admitted, like, my father was sold, and so was my brother. She said they sold him, father and brother. I want to ask, who's they? Who is they? They never explain that term. When you say they, that's extremely confusing, especially when you see a movie when it's like 80, 90% black people. You will assume that it was another black person. No. What you just spoke about when the guy was going to marry the rebel, and he was telling her, "Look, this is how it's going to be. You're going to work my land. You're not to say anything. You're going to obey me, whatever." Then he struck her. He hit her. I think he was just letting her know, look, this is how it's going to be from the gate. And I'm like, oh, wow. So again, showing more conflict between black males and black females. Yeah, she shoved him. She was like, no, I'm not going to have this. You're not going to be putting your hands on me. And what came to mind was first time, last time. And that's a quote by Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Neither one of us should be hitting each other, right? And the first time you get struck, whether a male or female, you need to end that right there, because they ain't gonna get no better. Excellent movie to watch. That it kind of contradicts what I just said, but a real good movie to watch is Just a Man, Just Another Man, something like that. Just a Man. Yeah, Just a Man. I think that's the name of it. It has a lot of good life lessons in that movie, and it's on Mr. Neely Fuller's movie list. I'm mute for now.
Indeed, first time, last time. Great demonstration of that, I think, as well. Thank you for bringing that up. So then, following those scenes, she joins the army. She's introduced. Essentially, one of the scenes that kind of caught my attention too was when Viola Davis's character returned from, I guess, their exhibition, or kind of getting these captives back. She asked to see the king. So the king and they meet. What do you kind of call it? Like a council. They have a council meeting. There's other people there. I'm not sure. There's like the leader of the male warriors who nobody knows this guy's name. I don't think his name is mentioned once throughout the film. He's around, but there's like an equivalent army of females and males, complementary, I guess you could say. But nobody knows.
Who? What character? we don't know whose name. Say that again.
The black male who's basically leading the male army.
The one that so-called raped, not so-called like,
No, not
but
him.
not him. Who?
The same. He's in the same. He's in the Dahomey kingdom, but he is in charge of the male army.
Right. They didn't mention his name. You're right. Okay, got you. That's
Oh,
horrible.
I
Yeah.
said they didn't mention his name. I don't know what his name was.
I don't remember them mentioning his name. I don't remember them calling him anything.
Yeah, he's
Ugh.
just this nameless character. I imagine he has similar stature or similar rank to the female, but can't black male's useless. Whole thing throughout the movie. So they have a council meeting and they're kind of discussing what are we gonna do about the Oyo, or they commit this raid. King Gezo, played by John Boyega, is like we're not gonna pay them tribute. Some of them are like, well, that means war. One thing that was interesting was it seemed like all of not all of them, I won't say, but the females were opposed to the slave trade. Like they vocalized that, whereas the males, include one of the males basically said, we gotta keep this going. Like we need to keep giving them captives to protect ourselves. One of the other males were kind of afraid of the Oyo. We're like one guy's like, we need more time, which is logical, I think, but I think in the scene, it just seems like the black males encourage and embrace the slave trade. Like they didn't really want it to end or see how ending it would benefit them. Whereas the black females are making the argument that this ultimately is not helping us and it is damaging us more than it is benefiting us. We are helping the Europeans and it is not helping us. Helping them is not helping us, essentially. So I thought that was interesting because the black males were the ones who seemed to oppose ending the slave trade. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
Not on that right now, but notice to the room and for people who might listen to this later, right? White people created racism, white supremacy, or created slaves, aka people to be mistreated based on color, forced us to work for free for hundreds of years, turn around years later, make a movie about that mistreatment, and then force us, or not really force us, because we don't have to. I didn't pay to watch this movie. I suggest people not pay to watch this movie. Don't even watch the movie, but definitely do your research and learn about the Dahomies. And hopefully that will lead you down the road to learn other things, right? But so we pay to watch it. People pay to watch this movie after. I mean, when you think about what I just said, how we were mistreated, killed, maimed, etc., work for free, and now we're paying for it. Like they really got us. It's sad, but yeah. So I want y'all to think about that. I want everybody to think about that. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that for now.
Well said. So my next notes. So there was a scene where where now these captives are introduced. They can either join the army or leave. They're given the option: join the army and fight for the king, or fight for the king of Dahomey, or not even the Dahomey. They said fight for the king, I believe, but that's not important. Or leave. She kind of lays down these rules for it. So the black females aren't allowed to have husbands or children. They want to be warriors, and warriors fighting for what? I assume to protect the Dahomey, but I mean, that once again, black male, black female relationships. The black males are allowed to have partners and children and whatnot, but the females aren't. As if the females are kind of like objects for the king's pleasure, because that was the whole reason that I understood that they weren't allowed to have husbands or children, was because the king requested it. The king also has multiple wives too, as well. But I thought inserting that seemed to be interesting. One thing about the film is that it is supposed to be inspired by true events, and paying attention to those words makes me believe that it is not going to be accurate in a lot of aspects. I mean, the Agoji or Dahomey female warriors are well researched, so there's a ton of information. Apart from that, the whole story I'm imagining, and I suspect, is completely fabricated, and who even knows if that kind of stuff was true. I don't. Go ahead, Salt.
To speak on what you just said, I am afraid that when we watch a movie like this and they say based on true events or anything like that, that we're because that's up there like for a brief second, right? We sit there, we watch this movie, and we will say this is reality. No, this is true. This is a true story. Even though they just said what they just said, they put that up there. I'm afraid that we will see this as true. Like everything happened, in front of us is true. And please, yeah, please don't. Please do your own research. The dancing. I picked up on that immediately. I was disgusted. I was like, there was no different from whatever time, what year that was. And then think about 2023, 2022. We still dancing. I was disgusted. And y'all in the middle of a slave trade and y'all dancing? Really? And that's brought up at one point when the king wanted to have a festival. And Viola Davis' character is like, I think it's a little bit too soon for that. People are still mourning from the war we just had. We just went to war, and he's like, no. I'm like, whew, oh my gosh. There's no difference between that time and now. Only thing, now we have technology, right? So people are recording it and this, that, and the other. But yeah, it was way too much dancing for my liking. Any dancing yeah. Just translated to TikTok and YouTube and everything else. Yeah, so I didn't care for the dancing, and especially knowing what was going on at that time. I mean, even today, right? But yeah, I'll mute my mic for now.
Yeah, for those who entered the room, just doing a decoding on Woman King. If you have any thoughts on the film or notes, feel free to request a mic and share. The next thing that I had was on, and kind of is following up on Salt's comment, is Black people being the entertainment committee. So there was the scene where the Black people went to the port. I can't exactly remember what for. I think to maybe get some of their people back, or just I think it was to announce war against the Oyo. But they did this in front of the white people who were present, just kind of going after each other, the Black people, announcing a war at the port where the white people are, and just starting to fight each other, not focusing on the white people who are responsible for this or announcing war against them, but rather focusing on each other, going to war with one another. Again, the system of racism, white supremacy requires that non-white people be in conflict with one another, and they do not point out or see the white people who practice racism as responsible for for their dilemma, for what is going on for the injustice and incorrectness going on the planet. And those scenes, those images just tend to reinforce that. I'm gonna say it here, but I'm not gonna say it here, but yeah, images like that reinforce that, keeping Black people, non-white people in conflict with one another, unable to correctly indict the white people who practice racism. The white people who practice racism set up that port. They are the ones buying. They have a whole industry, a whole system dedicated and relying upon the Black people that are captured. But yet, the Black people in the film are focused on one another, warring with one another. Go ahead, Salt.
So this is horrible, but I'm gonna say, and you let me know if I'm incorrect, about 80-90% of this movie is just non-white people going against each other. Black males and black females going at each other. Jealousy, warring, everything. You don't see any white people get harmed in this movie until like towards the end, like 10 and 15 minutes towards the end. Like horrible. That's disgusting. That is disgusting. That's disgusting. You know what was really silly? The part with the king's wife, her name was Ashanti. She was jealous. How she was jealous of Viola Davis' character. I thought that was silly. They were trying to introduce a little bit of soap opera, and I'm like, what? I thought that was like, that didn't make any sense to me, just to have that. And they also showed that same thing sort of going on within the Warriors. It was real quick, but they had to introduce it. One warrior, female warrior, she was like, oh, ain't she from so and so, whatever, from such tribe? And then the rebel one, the mentor or whatever, she was like, no, we need to shut this down. But yeah, they even showed us bickering with each other. I'm talking about the two like the black females bickering with each other who's supposed to been on the same side. The reason why, let me go back. The reason why I'm doing a review, the reason why I even watched this movie, because an attempted family member watched this movie and raved about it. And I said, oh no, we can't have this. So that's the only reason why I watched this movie. I was not going to watch this movie. I have two reasons. The attempted family member raved about this movie, and I was a little curious as to why you have the title Woman King. That's an oxymoron that makes no sense. And I was looking for that explanation. Like, why this title? And she was just really Viola Davis' character, she was really just second in command. Like she was like she had the ear of the king. She was right up under him. It was like the king and then her. So just to be plain and simple about the explanation, but they said something about tradition. They kind of went a little bit deeper. Kind of went over my head because I'm like, what? But yeah, the introducing the little soap opera part, that was silly. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there for now. Go ahead, Quaker.
Uh, just a quick question. Does anybody have a opinion on the non-white male who was a part of the slave trade?
Oh,
Oh, you
absolutely.
talk about the
Yes.
mulatto, the so-called mulatto who had the homie mom and the white dad, that they had him walking. Now, mind you, he was paired up with a white guy, and the white guy was being carried by who was carrying black people, right?
I
But
believe
Mhm.
so.
the so-called mulatto, yeah, this movie's horrible. Let me tell you, this movie is horrible. So they had a non-white male, but they called him mulatto. Like I said, because he had his mom was a Dahomey, a black female, and his dad was white. And they had him there, and I'm like, what? And then they had the rebel girl, like kind of be his love interest. Of course, he's light skinned with the so-called good hair. I'm like, oh, this movie is hitting so many points. It's ridiculous.
I thought of
Uh,
Coming to America, pretty much.
Well, I haven't seen Coming to America in a long time.
I haven't
But
seen that movie either.
but I mean that's what I was thinking. Like the like whole time. Like okay, pretty much he's like the male version of the like female from Coming to America, and so yeah, that's kind of like thought of that. But yeah, I just wanted y'all to speak on that character in the flick.
Yeah, I thought that character was interesting. One book in particular I thought of when I first saw that character was Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. In that book, he talks about these, I guess, so-called mulattoes, but the products of interracial tragic arrangements, where and a lot of times it would be they would have a white parent, a white father. He spoke that a lot historically these individuals with white fathers tended to hate their black their black um their black mothers, because a lot of times they were like slaves or concubines or prostitutes, and they would never be accepted as white. So they oftentimes would go even harder than the white people when it came to, attacking non-white people. So I thought it was interesting to include a mulatto coming back, especially being a love interest for the character. That was extremely tacky to me. I mean, he might as well have been a white person. I think that was deception on the part of the director, the writers of the story, to include that character like that. I don't even like, if you remove that from the story, it wouldn't change the movie at all, and it just seems like one of those things that isn't necessary, doesn't really add to the storyline, but it's just one of those pieces of racist propaganda that people got to see. Even back then, even in the 1800s, a lot of these people have never even seen somebody white, let alone mixed, or mixed. But as soon as she sees that, she's intrigued. Like, what an amazing looking human being. And we just gotta be reminded at all times that dark skin, the darker you are, that's not, nobody wants to be that. Nobody likes that. That's no. Yeah. The lighter skinned people though, they'll get the attention. That's the stuff we like. Even though I've never seen anything like that. I mean, she's even kind of like examining him, kind of like what are you? Like, at least that's what I was interpreting. But still gotta include that interest. I'm sure that there would have been a black male anywhere nearby, but can't have the black males. But who would have done the same for her? But it's got to be the mulatto person protecting her. He's got to be the so-called Prince Charming or whatnot. Not focusing on him, but I think it's just clever as always. Go ahead, Crash Buddy.
I saw him as ineffective, powerless. Yeah, he attempted to protect her, but I didn't see him as someone who could really protect her. But the title of the movie, Woman King, they said in the Dahomey language what the actual word was. I do not remember it. It's been a few weeks since I've seen the movie. But they have a word for it. This title, I feel, is a mistranslation of the word that they said in their language. Words are important.
Going back to the so-called mulatto. Oh, Quaku, were you about to say something about what Crash just said?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that because that was something that after seeing the film, I kept asking myself, is Woman King even like an actual title that they gave? Because one thing that happens a lot when it's being translated, or white people especially are using the words, they always change the meaning or they change the interpretation. So I'm like, is Woman King even actually an actual title that, you know, the Dahomey came up with, or is that even something that actually exists? You know, because there's so much attention just around that title, Woman King, and it could be like, it could be a title that doesn't actually even exist. I think I can't remember, because that was something I looked up, and I think another victim had shown me some information on it. I just can't remember it at this time, but I do remember seeing that actually isn't an accurate title or an accurate name for anything. So it's just, you know, like Salt said, an oxymoron that doesn't make any sense. It's conflicting. And just another term to create confusion. What is a woman king? Can a woman be a king? Why isn't she a woman queen? Or why not just a queen? Yeah. So another thing in this film, inspired by true events, that is, I suspect to be totally inaccurate, and just another thing that the racist who created it, or a suspected racist, but probably racist, created to insert to cause confusion and conflict amongst non-white people.
Another thing, going back to the mulatto. Now, this is not a term that I normally use. I'm just using it right now because of the movie. But that mulatto is not a part of my vocabulary. So y'all could just better understand what I'm saying. Um, just listening to everything just reminded me the mulatto was the so-called one to try to save her, while they made Obey, which was a dark-skinned male. He was the rapist, the one who wanted to sell and, you know, want to sell us and da 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 da. Like, they made the dark-skinned guy again the bad guy, and the mulatto, the lighter non-white person, the savior, because he's closer to white, right? So yeah. There was another point about that I want to make that was interesting. Oh, I think the reason why he was in the film, the so-called mulatto, so that we could still focus on non-white people. Because notice the white guy that he was paired up with, that it was the mulatto and the white guy. You rarely saw the white guy. You saw him a little bit, but the story kind of, they focused more on the mulatto than the white guy. So yeah, this movie is horrible. I wouldn't advise anybody to see it, but I do advise people to do their own research and look it up.
Yeah, the white guy, you didn't see him much. For the most part, he made one trip from like the port out to the kingdom. Other than that, he stayed in his enclave. You know, he stayed over by the port. He wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't going anywhere near those Negroes. The other non-white person probably having some genetic material from a black person may have felt a little bit more comfortable. I mean, they portrayed him as kind of wanting to explore his mother's history, wanting to to know his mother by visiting the place. So I suspect that's why, you know, he's going out, he's going around. He was going into the forest. He's going a lot of places compared to the white male. I think the white male just kind of stayed where in one spot, didn't pay any attention to him. Who knows what he could have been up to the whole time throughout the movie. Go ahead, Monson.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a scene here with the Viola Davis character. Hold on, matter of fact, let me just get the cast members right. So Viola Davis played Naniska, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
John Boyega King uh, Ginzu
Gezo.
Gezo. So there's a scene after they meet up with, you know, of course, the mulatto and the white man who's in the slave trade, and they're having this discussion about, like, Ginzu wanted to create a whole African empire, and pretty much she's like telling him, like, yeah, like, that's your thought about, creating an actual empire, but you're basically selling our own people. And pretty much by y'all already bringing up how powerless the actual black males are in this movie, this one scene kind of epitomizes that whole thing of, like, yes, we're like, these like so-called black males are like, trying to find power, but again, they're powerless by selling their own people, basically. So which racist man racist women want us to do. You know, to again not get along with each other, fighting. You know, so again, I purposely watched this movie on mute for a reason. So, but I'll just mute there.
This movie, again, okay, so it's black males against black females against black males, mothers against daughters, daughters against mothers. Where have we seen this before? Like, like it hits all the markers, all of it. The mentor to the rebel. Why did she like liquor? She was like, "Oh, that's the best thing that white man could have introduced us to was liquor." I was like, "What?" Ugh. So you're showing us like she's a warrior. I doubt if a warrior would, someone who has to take care of their body, who has to be in tip top shape to fight, is getting drunk. And they just had to introduce that part. And I was like, wow. Yeah, that was just disgusting. That was horrible. Let me see what else. Oh, go ahead. Somebody else want to
go. Key word introduced by the white people. Once again, the white people who practice racism, sabotaging the non-white people. I know it was mentioned earlier about, you know, the relationship that Viola Davis's character had to King Ghezo and kind of like the jealousy of the black female, one of his wives. There was a scene in the film where the the black female can be seen giving out all kinds of unsolicited information to the white male. I think that highlights the lack of suspicion of the black female for the white male. I don't know what she thought he was going to do with that except use it against him. But again, white people, white males, the white people who practice racism are great at seeming like the people who can solve your problems, playing gods. So if you have an issue with another black person, find you a white person and let them know what's going on, and they will provide you constructive help. I think that is an image that is constantly put out towards us in order for us not to be suspicious of white people. Then there was also the scene. One of the things I watched about kind of like a review of the film was on Viola Davis's character, kind of like what would her motivation be for, you know, doing what she does? What would make her give up like her essentially being a female, or maybe I don't know, maybe a codified way of saying this, or even if it's codified, but essentially giving up what it means to be a female, or, you know, what makes her not want to engage with black males anymore. And they suspected that it would be because she was raped by a black male. And, you know, they put that in there. That was mentioned, that she was raped by a black male. Once again, black males are useless, conniving rapists who are
Untrustworthy.
Their only role in the film is to destroy, never build, never provide constructive help. So that was an image, of course, that needed to be put in there. Black male, black female relationships, once again, as mentioned by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing in the ISIS papers, black males and black females need to be in conflict with one another at all times. So, you know, that essentially is the whole background history of Viola Davis's character, an unfortunately extremely traumatized black female, who it seems dedicated to, you know, annihilating black males, unfortunately.
I suspect the reason why racist men and racist women keep trying to promote this so-called gender war, so you know that we're focusing on each other because they don't want us to get together and produce another Malcolm X. They don't want us to get together and produce another MLK or Fred Hampton or anybody like that. So yeah, I think that's why. The term white man was mentioned in this movie, um, and we didn't see. I don't recall seeing any um, white women. But please, let's not forget, white women made this movie. They are behind the scenes of this movie. So
Executive producers.
exactly. Thank you, sir. So let's not forget white women. Let's not forget white children. Let's not forget them. Never leave them out, because that was at one time that was the term, the white man, the white man, the white man. Yeah, but you leaving out white women and white children, and you never want to do that because white women do it best when it comes to practicing racism. They do it best. So let's not leave them out.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then like you know, prior to this actual the actual opening of this actual flick, well, I would say the whole of like, you know, boom, now it's in theaters. You know, all of the blame was toward the non-white director, who was, you know, of course, a black female. But yeah, once you see that the producers were white, yeah, that's all I need to know. I don't need to be putting blame on the director at all. No point. No point at all. I mean,
Something else that stood out to me, and this one was actually, this happened while I was watching it in the theater. So there was the scene kind of where the black females. I'm skipping over a lot of stuff that happened, but you know, towards the end of the film, where they go back to the slave port to basically release their captives. So there was a, you know, a war. The Dahomey fought the Oyo. The Oyo managed to capture some of their warriors, and you know, they took them to the slave port to get traded. There was some, you know, somebody died in that, when the mentor ended up dying trying to escape and flee. But so when they tried to go back, and you know, they made it back, they essentially went to um, tear down the slave port. You know, they were trying to burn it up. This is the only time in the film where we start seeing white people dying. You know, the focus has been shifted from the black people because the black females have defeated. Huh. Okay, so this is actually interesting now that I'm thinking about it. So once the black males have been defeated, now we can focus on the white people. That is essentially the message that is conveyed. So after they defeat the black males, the Oyos, they go to the slave port. Now they're going to tear it down, get their people back, end the slave trade and slave trading out there. Um, and it was interesting because one thing I've noticed about the racists is when they are making their media, they always attach like some music to it, right? Like the type of music that is attached to a certain action is supposed to give a feeling or an emotion to how they want you to feel about it. So while they're throughout the film, while they're murdering black males, I mean, the music, I would describe it as dark, very low vibrational music. All you can think of is death when listening to something like that. But when it is the the white males, it is kind of like cheery, victorious music. You hear a lot of trumpets. And one thing that happened was there were people in the theater when Viola Davis killed the male who raped her. They were clapping, but when they were killing the white people, I mean, when they killed the white guy, they were like, there was no response. And this was from victims and from white people. You know, they were clapping when the black male was being murdered, you know. But when the white people who set up the whole institution, the whole how everything's gonna work, when they were being murdered, everybody was silent in the theater. I thought that was extremely interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
The thing about history, not saying that we shouldn't learn it, we shouldn't read about it, but when you read about history, please, you know, try to memorize stuff, obviously, but also try to pick out the mistakes so that we don't repeat them, right? So, one of the first mistakes that I've noticed of the king, who was played by John Boyega, is that he welcomed the white captain, um, San, what's his name? Something Ferreira. Yeah, Ferreira. That was his first mistake, welcoming the white captain into the kingdom and sitting down and having a chat with him. Like, nah, that was that was the first mistake to me. Um, mm, there was a point where the captain Ferreira, the white guy, he told the African king John, um, that he's as rich as the king in England. Is that true? Really? Like, and if that was true, which I know it's not, but if it was true or whatever, how did the king of England become rich? You got to think about that. Please ask yourself that question. Um, was it not by stealing the gold and oil and everything else from Africa? The term love was used with no definition. Yeah. There was a point where they were getting ready to go to war, the warriors, Viola Davis side, and they were greasing up their bodies. They were greasing up their face and their arms and everything. And it made me think about how, like, back in the day, how young girls used to grease up their face and put a scarf on or whatever, so that, like, the scratches wouldn't wouldn't stay and stuff like that. And I was just like, wow, this is interesting. It's taking me back. And yeah, I mute my line. Oh, and the mulatto, yeah, he was so powerful. Remember when the warriors, they were captured, they were put, yeah, they were captured, and when he saw them, he was like, no, 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 like, why are they in there? They're warriors, this, that, and the other. Didn't they hold him back? They was like, shut up. He couldn't do anything. If he wanted to do something, he was going to have to buy. He bought the rebel. That's how he was able to so-called free her. He had to buy
Talking
her.
about the mulatto character, right?
Yes, Malik.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's his name, was Malik. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. That part was like, yeah, he was, ugh, just helpless.
Yeah,
Helpless.
I suspect if he was a white person, you know, they would have just kind of given her to who knows. But I think Crash Buddy mentioned it earlier. You know, he's a powerless victim. I think even it's kind of funny thinking back, like while the white male's being carried, like he's still walking with everybody else, all the other black people. Um, so that's interesting as well. So then there's the relationship with the Viola Davis's character and then the child, right? And so I was one thing I was, what exactly what is this relationship supposed to be about? what does this serve? Like what are they trying to tell us with this relationship? I mean, Viola Davis was raped by a black male. She didn't want the daughter or the child, so she had her associate, who later became like her second in command, kind of give up the child for adoption or take it somewhere so it could be adopted. And that ends up being the main character, and that relationship is brought up later on, right? Like it's discovered that this character is actually your daughter. And what is the relevancy of creating a whole relationship like that? What are they trying to tell me? I think it seems to highlight the single black female narrative, in a way for me, because here we have a black female who's raped. She essentially has to choose between herself or raising her child. you know um she When she gave up her child, I believe she was trying to escape from slavery, or they were going somewhere, but she had to choose between raising her child or escaping. And she ultimately chose herself over raising the child, which is, I think, something that the system of racism, white supremacy today requires of its subject people. It requires us not to have quality relationships with one another. It requires us to mistreat our children. It requires us to have racist educating and providing opportunities or resources for our children, because because the non-white people, the subject people, are unable to do that for their children. Everything that I have to ask for from the white supremacists. That was another thing in the film that was, again, one of those pieces of propaganda that I think the racists had to put in there to reinforce that black people do not, for some reason, black people don't take care of their children, or black people, the single black female narrative, where it's better off being a single mother than it is being in a relationship with a black male. Not even that, but it can't happen, right? Like the only way that life can be created for black people is through mistreatment and rape for some reason. I mean, I don't know who else was having children in that movie, but that was the only instance where you know a black male and a black female came together, at least sexually. And that's how it was portrayed, as rape. It's one of those things, again, that if it isn't in the film, it doesn't change the plot, but they had to put it in there. Why? I suspect, to further destroy, to further reinforce the narrative that black males are dreadful, deadly people to be engaged with or to have relationships with. Yeah, I'll mute my line there.
Why was this movie made? Out of all of the stories that could have been told, why tell this one? And why tell this one in such a manner where, like you said, mother and daughter are at ends with each other? Black males and black females are at war with each other, literally killing each other. But why tell this story today? I think it's to further confuse us, to keep the focus off of them. So we have to fight really hard to do the opposite. Whatever racist man and racist woman, whatever they put in your face, you have to reject it with all of your energy, with all of your time. You have to see that this is propaganda, and you got to see the propaganda in this, and to flip it, right? So they want to point out, they want to try to point this narrative that we're we're bad people, and we just fight each other and this, that, and the other, and we don't take care of our children. And look, we're always at ends with our children, with our offspring, or whatever. But who did white people drop their kids off with? Even today, I see non-white females taking care of white children, babysitting white children today in 2022. So if we're so bad and we're so this and so that, why would you leave your most precious possession to us then? To mind and watch and care for and babysit, etc. So please don't fall for this narrative. Please, please don't.
Go ahead, Monsoon.
So that the whole relationship between Viola Davis' character along with the pretty much the actual main character of the actual film, the like young female. Do you think that these white people were trying to promote anti-sex in a way, even though even though this like young female is her child? I'm mute.
Monsoon, they had a character, a eunuch, who was an effeminate black
Oh,
male.
listen. I
Ah,
think I listen. I know who you're talking about. I researched some stuff. They're saying that this person was a female.
oh, but in the movie, it's a male. Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
very interesting.
Right.
Very interesting. Mm. Oh, double whammy. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because no, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but just answering your question, I suspect so. I think that they were definitely promoting anti-sex throughout the film. I mean, the woman, the children, that's a requirement. I don't even know if that's actually true, but like to have to say something like that. The rape by the black male again. Don't come in contact with black males, and then just the black child, Viola Davis's child, and the trauma that the child actually brings her. That's portrayed in the film. I think suggests like, but not to engage with black males. It can't be constructive. Um, but I don't. I think I suspect that in Africa or with black people back in history, like you can have these all male, all female type groups, and it not be something that is sexual, right? It's not anti-sex, but whenever it seems like racist man, racist people, or the racist man, racist woman, racist child, white people who practice racism, they always have to portray as being anti-sex, to confuse us. I suspect to confuse a lot of us into thinking like we engaged in this or our ancestors engaged in this kind of stuff. To be honest, I don't know. I absolutely do not think so. I think there's a lot of evidence that suggests that that is something that black people didn't do, and white people are the originators. They are the true anti-sexuals. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Go ahead, Smoking Damages.
Excellent space, hosts and co-hosts. You guys covered a lot of things that I thought you were going to cover as well. And just in terms of full disclosure, I haven't actually watched The Woman King, only because I didn't really want to, because I know it's about black people killing each other on the screen again. So I thought, yeah, I'm not really going to do that. But I've heard quite a lot about what the film's about, and I'm glad that you guys mentioned the fact that Prince Philip used to be called the Queen's consort, not the man queen. Yeah, so the whole term woman king is a strange term. But really, really quickly, I just wanted to make a suggested question for black people to ask other black people. The suggested question is, I mean, black people who like to watch this type of stuff. My suggestion is ask those black people, do you enjoy watching black people killing each other on screen? If so, why? That's all I've got to say.
Excellent question, and I plan to ask people who enjoyed this movie and rave about it. I plan to ask them that exact question. Excellent question.
Yeah, so the black female that we thought was a male in the actual flick, her name is Zozie Bani, or like Zozie Beanie Tunzi. It's spelled Zozibini, and then her last name is spelled Tunzi. And again, like in her like real life, she has an actual short haircut too. So, but yes, that is a black female that was walking with the king prior to them meeting up about the whole selling off uh slaves basically. So, and that was like maybe like 15-20 minutes in the actual flick. So I just wanted to point that out there. I mean,
Yeah, that is extremely interesting. That was another thing I'm wondering. Do black people even actually have eunuchs? I know white people, that was something that they had plenty of, but did black people have eunuchs? I think again that's another thing that the white people who practice racism had to insert into the film. Obviously, didn't need to be there. Wouldn't have changed anything. And it seems like it would be more accurate to have a female, but again, black male, black female relationships not allowed to exist. Got to fabricate as many anti-sexual black people as possible throughout history to further confuse black people in area 8, to further the system of racism, white supremacy. By keeping us confused, the system will go on for time immemorial. Go ahead, Crash Buddy. Miss Action. Okay, I think you had your hand up. You lowered it. I don't know if you wanted to still had anything to say.
I just want to say, please go to Produce Justice and get Mr. Neely Fuller's book, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Also, another book suggestion, They Were Her Property. I can't remember the author of that book. And The ISIS Papers by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, and Medical Apartheid. Oh, so many awesome books out there to read about the system, what it is, and how it works. There's so many. Reading is way more important than watching television.
Stephanie Jones Rogers. That's the author of They Were a Property. Stephanie Jones Rogers.
Kwaku, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Just looking through my notes, seeing what else I have on the film. Yeah. So I guess one other thing that I did, I guess initially that I thought I liked about the film was the images of just Black females being constructive. I think if I having a younger Black female, I feel that could be constructive for her to see. But of course, it's a lot of clarification is going to be needed because if not, I think it could confuse her or them. I think sometimes those images can be helpful, but I think there's just too much confusion, too much deceit going on to where it's not really interpreted correctly, or at least,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, no, sir. No. Heck no. No, sir. Not this one. Not this movie. Nah, I don't suggest this movie to a soul. I suggest that you learn about the homies, and hopefully it will, you will go in other avenues. You'll learn other stuff, but no, sir.
Agreed. That was those were some of the things I was thinking about originally when I saw the film. Like, did I actually like what I just saw, or could it have been constructive? I know there was a lot of things I didn't like, but I think that's probably the route I'll take in a lot of these movies. Yeah, some of these images could be constructive, but there's just way too much confusion, deceit in the film to where even if I was to offer it to somebody, I couldn't do that without talking to them the whole entire time, checking in with them. Do you understand? Like, what do you think you're looking at right now? Like,
Exactly.
what do you think about this?
Exactly. And that would ruin the whole experience right there, because you'd have to stop and be like, okay, now what do you think about that right there? If you want to see non if you want to see Black males and Black females going at each other, if you want to learn how to keep that going, watch this movie. If you want
Exactly.
to see them killing each other, watch this movie. If you want to see why you shouldn't trust Black males, if you should why you shouldn't date one, and oh, they're not attractive or whatever, watch this movie. No. Heck no.
Agreed. 0526.
Yeah, I'm just gonna read some things from Still Learning, who is in the chat on the YouTube channel. From Still Learning, all forms of media are used to influence thought, speech, and action. What is this movie influencing the audience to think, to say, and how to act? Sounds like a movie about the crabs in a barrel theory of community cooperation. Woman King equals displacing male energy to be absorbed into female energy. Female becomes the provider and the protector. The male is rendered neutralized. Also from Still Learning, attentive family member raved about Black Panther 2. They only went to watch it. They only went to watch the movie, but not analyze the content, as according to them, analyzing would take away from the fun. The name Obey equals obey. The new beige non-white people may be promoted as the newest models of success for non-white Black people, e.g. Step Clay Mahomes, and other opposing the darker skin threat to racism and white supremacy. There's a number of other constructive things that have been said in the chat from Jay Elegant, but I want to go ahead and continue reading from Still Learning. I suspect this production is a vehicle to influence the audience to think, believe the non-white male, the non-white is not responsible for initiating Hold on, there's a grammatical error. Let me try to correct this. From Still Learning, I suspect this production is a vehicle to influence the audience to believe that the non-white male is responsible for initiating the slave trade, thereby taking white people off the hook. So that's very logical. Placing the blame on non-white males. That sounds logical. The non-white male is responsible. And yeah, there's tons of constructive things from Still Learning in the chat. Have not seen the film, but I everything that is being said is to be expected from all films under the system of racism and white supremacy.
Correct. And please don't see this movie. Don't. Mm-mm.
Thank you for sharing that, 05. Visit the YouTube channel Countering RWS on YouTube for some counter-racist material, counter-racist material resources. A lot of good archive material. We got a book study of the code book, ISIS papers, race code war. Check it out. That was actually, I don't know why I keep doing this to myself, but that was what I kept holding myself back from earlier, because I did see Black Panther 2, and for me, it was just a continuation of this movie. Racial shadow boxing to the max. I think that this movie also interprets and portrays that as well. And really, it's just a continuation of Woman King, where no Black males are present in the film at all, focused on fighting other Black, not even Black, so-called brown people. Yeah, there is, the racists have got us under their thumb. You know, they know exactly what to put out, what to produce, and when to produce it. I don't believe in coincidences. This is calculated. So kind of getting to the end of my notes. Probably gonna end up shutting this down in about 5 minutes. Does anybody else have any well, actually, commenting on some of the comments made by Still Learning. I think something was mentioned about, you know, the Black males being neutralized, and I think a lot of what Still Learning put in the chat was I think it's accurate. Can't remember everything that was said, but
I put it in the group chat.
Let me see. What group chat?
ACS.
Say that again.
ACS, sir.
Oh, thank you. While I look at that and find out exactly what I wanted to comment on, anybody got any other comments?
I don't have any more notes for the movie. Yeah, please go to Produce Justice and get the code and the word guide. Reading is more important than television. And let me see what else. Let me think about it for a second.
Yeah, I remember what it was. The non-white male being responsible for the slave trade, and that is, I mean, with a lot of what has been going on over the past, I guess, year or two in particular, with conversations towards reparations, seems like the racists have been suggesting that Black people are responsible for the slave trade, non-white people are responsible for the slave trade. And a film like this, I can see how, if people don't understand what inspired by true events actually means, how they could take a movie like this, take it for factual, use it as a historical reference, and use it to reinforce that Black people, non-white people, are responsible for the slave trade. And I think that is the white people who practice racism. That is their plan. That they don't want non-white people to connect the slave trade, the global system of injustice on the planet, to them, that they are responsible for it. And which is why I mentioned earlier, that some of the clips that I played by Mr. Fuller early on, that really a lot of what was going on, I suspect, was a reaction to the system. Black people having to do what they thought was necessary, as incorrect or as unjust as it was, but doing what they believe was necessary. Ultimately, who stands to benefit the most from the system of racism, white supremacy? Who benefits the most from the so-called slave trade? If Black people benefited from the slave trade, I think it would show. Rather, we are in a pitiful, pathetic, primitive position on the planet. We are subject to racism, white supremacy. So I think it absolutely did not benefit non-white people, and they absolutely were not responsible for it. Yeah, those are my thoughts on that statement made by Still Learning. Thank you, Still Learning.
So I'm just gonna. I also haven't seen Black Panther 2, but I am going to describe these films as what I would call low frequency films. And what I mean by low frequency is that these films are not intended to inspire one to reflect on their existence, to improve their existence, but to feel good, to smile, to feel comfort, brief comfort for the 2 hours or so, maybe some residual comfort that you will get from the film afterwards. But as for reflecting on the reality that one exists in, these films are not intended to do that, which is why I categorize them as low frequency, meaning very, very basic, very, very, to be very blunt, stupid and silly films that a lot of money and resources went into to craft these tools of deception, tools of retarding our minds further. And then we tragically, as I heard, we go into these films and we are still applauding the stupidity that has been well put together for us. Applauding when black male is killed, and silent when a white person is being harmed in the films. Very, very embarrassing and a huge reflection on what this system, this race war of white supremacy has done to the minds and the existences of non-white people. We just are not thinking logically. We're not thinking in a manner to solve this problem. We're not even thinking that we are in a problem. They have just trained us to be on the on sort of an existence where we're only focused on distracting ourselves, and we distract ourselves by feeling good by dancing and indulging in entertainment like the Woman King, Black Panther, getting all the t-shirts and just doing a whole bunch of fanatic things about it around these items, these films. And yeah, I'm gonna just go there. I have quite a huge disdain for a lot of Area 3 these days, and it's to be expected.
Real quick before you shut it down, I now remember since Black Panther was mentioned, the movie Wakanda, right? Remember how much money was it Disney, aka white people, made off of that movie? Remember how much the actors made off that movie? When people started doing the research and finding out how much Chadwick Boseman made and Michael B. Jordan and everybody else, they were disgusted. Then all of a sudden, I wasn't able to find out how much they made off the movie. Um, remember, I don't know who it was, but I think it was DL Hughley. But remember black people saying, "Hey, white people, aka Disney, y'all made all this money off this movie. Why don't y'all invest in the black community?" And white people was like, "No." For the longest, they said no. And then all of a sudden they caved and they said, "Okay, we'll donate $1 million. Out of all the money they made, we'll donate $1 million to charity, aka STEM." Who do you think benefit from that? Yeah, so please keep that in mind. And I mute my mic.
Yes, thank you. I wasn't even aware of that. How much the actors actually made off of the first film. So that was a
pennies, pennies, sir, pennies.
That's what I was told in comparison to what the white actors make, like Thor and yeah, I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. So yeah, that would definitely be a movie I would recommend nobody go see. Quite honestly, these two movies, yeah. After watching Black Panther 2, I knew nobody should watch Woman King, and nobody should definitely watch Black Panther 2. That one actually, I felt physically ill watching that movie. To be completely honest, yeah. So other than that, I don't have any other notes. Anything else on the topic of decoding Woman King? I appreciate everybody's participation.
Oh, and if you do see either one of the movies that we named or whatever, don't pay for it, and please watch it with a critical eye, with an analytical eye, with a decoding eye, please, if you must.
Absolutely. I I have no shame in taking my phone out, taking my notes. I just turn my screen on dark, and then I take my notes while I'm watching the film. It's at least one way to study, and at least for me, be constructive when watching the film, because I want to know what am I looking at, what am I seeing. I know that's not for everybody, but that's just what I do. A suggestion for the room. Yeah, make sure you go to producejustice.com, get your copy of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, or aka the Code Book by Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Visit counterracism.com if you want to learn more about racism, what it is and how it works. Other than that, everyone have a safe and constructive Sunday, and maintain well. Peace.